The door swings open, and this young lady with blue eyes walks into the boardroom, a stunning redhead whose aura has filled the boardroom. Her grandfather is surprised to see her and asks why Evangeline is disrupting their meeting. Yes, the stunning young lady's name is Evangeline. Evangeline is confused as to why her grandfather doesn't want her in the boardroom meeting because she is the company's CEO and has every right to be there. He asks her to leave, telling her that they'd speak at home, but she refuses to leave. And he lets her know that the board of directors have found a replacement for her as they no longer want her to be the company's CEO. The board of directors don't also seem pleased with grandfather's announcement and somewhat feel bad for Eva, but they can't even help her. Seems grandfather forced them to pick a replacement. She demands to know why she's being demoted despite working hard and tirelessly for the company's growth, and grandfather breaks the most shocking news. He lets her know that she isn't his legitimate granddaughter, and Eva is shocked. He tells her that the DNA result came out as proof that she isn't related to the Young family by blood, and he can't figure out how it happened, but they're investigating. He tells her to leave for home, and she asks why she can't be the company's CEO, just because she isn't related to him. By blood doesn't make her less qualified as the company's CEO. He informs her that she'll still get to work in the company as one of the directors and get to assist her younger sister. Eva bursts into laughter and tells him that the company will definitely crumble without her because she made XY Corporation what it is today. She needs to speak to her fiance immediately as he's the only one that might understand her plight. She keeps calling him, but he doesn't pick up his phone and she decides to pay him a visit. She walks into his apartment to see a lady's shoes in the sitting room and she becomes suspicious. She finds a young woman on his bed and she's shocked. He immediately tells her to leave as he has already heard that she's not the legitimate daughter of the Youngs, and she's now worthless to him. Julian tells her he was only engaged to her because they thought she was the legitimate child of the Youngs, and he got sick of her face a long time ago. Eva struggles to hold back her tears as Julian doesn't deserve to see her cry. She threatens that she'd make him regret all his actions. She's still so enraged and recounts everything she went through as a child, and she still can't understand why they chose to betray her after everything she has done for them so far. She stops by a bar and orders a strong drink. The bartender offers her a milder one as she didn't seem to like it, but she tells him that she's fine with the one she's taking. She recounts how she lost the crucial years of her life and never took out her time to enjoy life like normal people do. But she was hell-bent of taking care of the company she thought would be all hers. Forever. She remembered how she worked tirelessly to get as many degrees just to impress her so-called family, which cost her a normal childhood and teenage life. How she worked so hard and even spent countless nights in her office just so she could make the company grow. And now her so-called family are demoting her from her hard-earned position. Her life has taken such a dramatic twist, and she's about to call herself Evangeline Young when she remembers that she isn't even a Young. They never considered her as family, as she was just a pawn in their games. She tries to keep it in mind that she must deal with the Youngs and make them pay for everything they did to her, but unknowing to her, she spoke out loud and drew everybody's attention. A fine young lad walks up to her asking if she has all the money and power to deal with them, and she's dumbfounded because she doesn't even know him. He asks her how she's going to make them regret because she has no money and power to do all that, and she gets furious. Drunk Evangeline gets up and pulls him to herself, telling him that she might not have all the money now, but she'll definitely bring them to knees and make them beg. She tells him that she's ready to do every and anything just to make them pay, even if she has to sell her soul to the devil. He smirks and tells her to be careful of what she wishes for, because there's a certain devil here that can grant all her wishes in exchange for her soul, and she demands that Mr. Handsome introduces her to that devil immediately. She tells him to do so as quickly as possible, but he tells her to wait till she's no longer drunk because immediately he does so, there's no turning back. She insists on not being drunk and asks him to go ahead because she's ready to do anything, even if it means going to hell with him. Mr. Handsome is amused at how persistent she is and decides to grant her deadly wish. She wakes up in a stunning room and is beyond shocked at how beautiful the room is. She immediately recalls what happened last night, and she quickly regrets everything drunk Eva said last night. She notices that she isn't in her clothes and tries to make sure nothing happened while she was asleep. She smells herself and is disgusted at how horrible she smells, like she has been in the sewers for days. She immediately grabs her clothes and tries to make a run for it when she figures out that the hallway looks like an ancient castle, and she can't help but wonder where on earth she is. The marble steps, bronze handrails, chandeliers, and ballrooms? This is definitely a house built in the 1800s. There's even a wicked fireplace, and she's still amazed as to how she got her. She's about to leave when a voice calls out to her, asking if his little kitten is escaping already. She's frozen in her steps. She quickly recognizes that it's the young lad from last night, and she asks him where she is and why he brought her here. He tells her that she's in hell, and she thinks he must be joking. He reminds her of her request to meet with the devil, and she remembers all of last night's shenanigans. He walks to her, about to touch her face, and even calls her his pet when she stops him in annoyance and warns him not to call her his pet. He tries to calm her down, but she grabs his hand and flings it away. She tells him that she's sorry for all the trouble she's caused and thanks him for having her. But Mr. Handsome tells her he can't be satisfied with such apologizes, especially not after everything she did last night. She doesn't seem to understand what he's talking about, and he offers to remind her and even says he's going to show her evidence of everything she did so she'll know that he isn't making any of it up. He quickly unties his robe and points to a bite on his neck, and Eva is shocked. She still doesn't seem to understand what she did. Several hours ago, he walked Eva to her car after she requested that she wants to see the devil, but she was so annoyed at Mr. Handsome because he refused to take her to the devil, insisting that she was really drunk and needs to be sober before he can do so. Noticing how drunk she was, he asked if there was anyone he could call to come pick her up, but she quickly remembers all that happened and tells him that she doesn't want to go home because she has no one to call. She tells him that this is exactly why he must bring her to the devil and forced him to enter her car as she wasn't in a good position to drive. He refused to start the car, and she asked him if he'd need a bribe, but then figures out she has no money. She immediately cites a couple making out, and she resorts to doing exactly what the couple did since she had no money to bribe him. She crawled over to the driver's side and kissed his neck. He tries to stop her as she proceeds to bite his neck, and she even told him he smelt so good. She's about to proceed when she ends up vomiting on his clothes, then she passed out. He placed her gently on the passenger's seat, and then makes a phone call for someone to come get his clothes. He placed her head on his bare chest as he drove away, making sure to get Eva to the devil since she's hell-bent on meeting the devil, and she has given him no other choice than to grant her request. Eva is so disappointed in herself as alcohol made her do a lot of horrible things and has definitely left her with nothing but a headache. She's sure that this man must definitely have an ulterior motive for doing all of this. She's about to ask him how much he wants from her when she quickly looks around. She reminds herself of all the luxury she's being surrounded by in this house, and such a man definitely doesn't want any money from her. But then what if he doesn't own the house like she thinks? Or maybe he's an aristocrat because he behaves like a high-ranked aristocrat? But then she has met many high-ranked aristocrats, and all of them combined do not exude half the aura that this man does. She finally musters the courage to ask who he is, but he tells his pet to guess, and she flares up because she doesn't have the time to play guessing games with him. He then refuses to give her an answer, and she's just confused as to how much this man can tolerate from her, because most men and women she has met usually can't wait to end a conversation with her. Yet, here this man is, trying to further drag the conversation. He finally tells her that he's the devil that she wanted to see, but she doesn't seem to like his answer, and threatens to leave if he doesn't answer her. He just stands there and sips his glass of wine, and Eva is wondering how this man can just stand there and look all stunning by just sipping a glass of wine and not even flinching. This man is one that every sane woman must be careful of because he seems very dangerous and not to be messed with. Her forehead starts hurting as she tries to massage her head when Mr. Handsome tells her that the lines on her forehead might remain permanent if she continues frowning like this. She's annoyed and tells him that the reason she can't stop frowning is all because of him. And if he has still refused to take her seriously, she's going to leave. She gets even more furious when Mr. Handsome tells her that he's being serious with her, and she asks him whether saying he's the devil makes him look any serious. She reminds him that she's no longer drunk, and if he doesn't tell her who he is, she's going to leave. He finally breaks the ice. He tells her that his name is Gage. Gage Acheron. Eva wonders where she has heard this name from as Mr. Acheron offers her a handshake. She's about to introduce herself as Evangeline Young when she remembers that she isn't even a Young. She apologizes to Mr. Acheron for all the chaos she caused last night because she was drunk, and she also can't believe that she did all of that because she has never done anything so embarrassing as that in her entire life. She tells him that he doesn't look like one who is in dire need of money, but money is all she has to pay for all the damage she caused. But Gage tells her that since he's the victim in the situation, he should be the one to ask for the type of compensation he'd like. Clearing her throat, she's about to ask Mr. Acheron what he'd want when he asks her to call him Gage. "All right, Gage, what do you want?" she asks. And he tells her that he wants her to stay with him until all the hickeys and bite marks disappear. Evangeline is astonished. Hickey marks that are left to heal on its own will take approximately 5 to 10 days, or even last up to 2 weeks. And from how much she has interacted with this man already, he's going to make sure he drags it for 2 weeks. She quickly thinks that this man might be messing around with her and might bulge immediately. She falls for the joke, but he doesn't seem to be joking as he remains unflinched. What if he wants her to stay and serve him in bed, and she can't help but stare at him with annoyance? He realizes what might be going on in Eva's head and assures her that it isn't what she's thinking, but she still can't take his word for it. He tells her that he needs some companion in this huge house because his maid ran away, and he needs some time to find a new maid. Eva is sure that he wants to use her as a temporary maid, as she can't believe that such a man like him can be so lonely and need the companion of a lady he just met. He draws her attention and makes sure she agrees to his terms and conditions. He pats her on her head and calls her a good girl, but Eva is angry and tells him to stop. He also tells her she won't be allowed to leave his house until the bite marks disappear. She curses her ill luck for making her cross paths with such a weird but handsome devil. She begins an argument with her inner demons as it tells her that Gage must have an ulterior motive for asking her to stay with him, and he might not be lonely as he claims. He might just be luring her before he finally eats her alive, but she flings her horrible demon's thoughts from her head. She needs to think of a way to get out of this mess. He tells her to come over to where he's seated, and she tells him that she needs to go home to pack up some clothes that she'd need while she is here. He asks her not to worry because he'll ask someone to bring in some clothes for her. He also orders her to go back inside the room and take a shower. And Eva remembered that she stinks like hell. She goes in to take a shower and finds a pink pajamas laid out on the bed for her, and she's quite amused because she isn't a fan of pink. But it's time for her to speak to him convincingly so that he can let her go. She's about to speak when he immediately picks her foot and slips a pair of slip-ons on her because they're about to go out. Eva is surprised and seems moved by what he just did, but she reminds herself that she's just here as a temporary companion and maybe even a temporary maid. "Come along with me, pet," he calls out, snapping her out of her thoughtful trance, reminding Eva of her plans to speak to him convincingly so he could let her go. She wonders where he's taking her, and it turns out they're only going to the kitchen. Her inner demon tells her that he's about to make her cook, and she doesn't seem as horrified as her demon is. In fact, she has a smirk on her face. If Gage is about to make her cook like they suspect, then it's definitely not going to end well because she's a horrible cook and he'd definitely throw her out. Surprisingly, he draws a seat out for her, ordering her to sit down, and this is not going according to the plan she had in her head. She tells him that she thought she's the one that will do the cooking, but he ignores her and continues picking veggies out of the fridge. This is definitely going to spoil everything she planned out in her head, so she actually offers to help. But he doesn't want his pet to stress, so he orders her to sit and watch. She's just speechless because she thought as a temporary maid it's going to be her duty to cook. Something is definitely wrong here and she can't seem to understand. And her inner demon tells her that this handsome-looking devil might have other plans, and she can't help but agree. Why would someone like him act so sweet towards a total stranger that has in fact been so cold to him? So she needs to play it safe and careful because a man that is as rich as him, judging from this mansion he lives in, can in fact be very deadly. She of all people knows exactly how rich people act when things don't tend to go the way they planned, so she has to be so careful and make no mistakes. He finishes up the cooking and serves her a hot, steaming, delicious bowl of soup and tells her to dig in. But suspicion is written all over Eva's face, and he reads it immediately. He reminds her of how she stared at him intensely while he made the meal and would have spotted if he put anything weird in it. Eva is embarrassed that he noticed her never-ending stare. She has a taste of the soup and it tastes like heaven. Her inner child is awakened as he asks her how it tastes, and she tries not to show that she's impressed. So she tells him that it's good. She's annoyed at how well he can cook, and right now this is exactly what she needs. and might probably be the best chicken noodle soup she has tasted in her entire life, and she just can't stop herself from eating. He enjoys staring at her while she eats and even offers her toast to step the soup down, and she's quickly reminded of the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale. She tells him that he might just be a male witch in disguise who's trying to fatten her up before he eats her up. Gage immediately bursts into laughter and can't hide how hilarious Eva sounded. Eva is visibly embarrassed. He tells her that what if she's right, but what can she do about it? And Eva is dumbstruck because this devil is making her humiliate herself right before him and seems to be enjoying every ounce of it. She tries to salvage the situation by telling him to help her find her phone if he truly is a male witch, and he quickly brings it out of his pocket, telling her where he found it, as they were about to leave the bar last night. He hands the phone to her, and she immediately discovers all her unread messages and even an incoming call from her secretary. So she takes his permission to pick the call, and he grants it. Her secretary is so glad that she finally picked up the phone and asks if she saw the news and all the commotion it stirred up on social media. Eva is wondering what she's on about and tells her she hasn't seen the news yet because her phone has been switched off since last night. Her secretary is referring to the announcement that she made last night about stepping down as the company's CEO, which was effective immediately. But however, Eva can't remember making any such announcements. She tells her she honestly didn't make any announcements, and her secretary tells her that she knows that it wasn't from her. But even bigger rumors have spread that she resigned because she has been found guilty of fraud and gross misconduct. Her secretary offers to come pick her up and requests for her location, but Eva ends the call. She goes on the news and finds people questioning her honesty and all her years of service to the company, and her hands start trembling, making her lose grip of her phone as it crash lands on the floor. Gage picks it up and asks her what happened, but she isn't willing to tell him, and instead she tells him to turn the phone off. She's trembling, and Gage gets an unwanted visitor and tells her to wait until he's back. Eva finally breaks down in tears and wonders why they chose to ruin her this way. She swears that she will deal with them and make them pay in tenfold for every single pain and heartache they have caused her. But first she has to leave this house because she's going to explode in anger if she continues staying here. Right now isn't the time for a vacation in a stranger's house. She quickly cites Mr. Park, the infamous secretary of Mr. Carlson, the CEO of Ason's enterprise, and she wonders what he could be doing here. He's telling Gage that Master asked him to come ask him one more time if he's willing to accept the CEO's position for Ason's, or have the chairman give it to someone else. Eva realizes that this man is being offered a position as her rival company's CEO. What exactly is going on here? Gage tells Mr. Park that the position of CEO is a very tasking one, and Mr. Park reminds him that he co-founded the company, so he's sure that he can definitely handle the position of CEO. He tells him that he has lost interest in the company, and this might cause the company's downfall. And as he knows, lack of motivation can be a serious flaw, and the only thing he could gain from this is more money, and that is quite useless to him. He tells him that he can't work so hard for more money when he already has enough that can last him his whole lifetime. Mr. Park tells him that Master thought he might be bored since he isn't currently doing anything. But Gage says he might get even more bored if he takes up the position. Mr. Park agrees, and tells him he'd relate that to the Master so he can start choosing from his list of candidates. But Eva stops him. Mr. Park is surprised to see her, and Gage tells him that she is his guest. But Park is sure that he's hiding her here, and to think that it's the CEO of Ason's rivalry of all women. Eva asks Mr. Park to give her and Gage some minutes alone. She asks if Gage is seriously going to reject the offer, and he tells her that he's quite lazy and doesn't plan to spend his whole entire bachelor's life stuck on a chair, days and nights just to make more money that he doesn't even need. So he's retiring now. Eva thinks he's being quite arrogant, but she tells him to hire her, because she was the former CEO of XY Corporation, and she's willing to work very hard to make Ason rise to the top and even crush XY Corporation in the process. Gage is interested because he remembers hearing about a female CEO that made XY overtake Ason. She tries to convince him to hire here even though Ason's chairman and board of directors might not accept her since she is XY's CEO, or ex-CEO currently, especially with all the rumors going around, so he should accept the position and then hire her to do all the hard work for him since his reason for rejecting the offer is that he's lazy. Gage tells her that she won't be getting any recognition if she hides behind him and does all the work. But Evangeline doesn't seem to care about the fame and glory because all she wants right now is revenge on XY Corp. She wants to show them the pain of losing something they really care about and pay them back for all their wonderful care with added interest. She tells him that she's being very serious and doesn't even mind making a bargain with the devil as long as she gets what she wants. Gage tells her that he's willing to strike a deal and is ready to give her everything she wants. But is she certain she is willing to do anything in exchange for it? And she tells him that she's beyond willing. Gage asks if she's really sure, and Eva replies with yes, Mr. Acheron to let him know how serious she is. He leans over and says, "What about Gage, darling?" And not Mr. Acheron. Eva gets so embarrassed and tells him that she's being serious here, but Gage is sure that his name sounds better with darling at the end. But Eva isn't pleased at all. He tells her he's ready to state his price then. Her inner demon tells her to brace herself because making a deal with the devil isn't as easy as it looks. But Eva looks ever ready for what is coming. If you want something big, you pay something big because this is exactly how the world works. And she is well aware that in making a deal with the devil, nothing ever goes right, except that she'd get the one thing that she'd bargained for. Immediately, Gage asks her to marry him, and she's utterly dumbfounded, and she asks if he's just joking around. But Gage doesn't seem like one to joke around, so she asks why he wants to marry her, and he says the answer is quite obvious. Eva asks if it's because he wants a wife, but he tells her that he needs a wife, but she's still wondering why. She asks if his old man is threatening not to give him his inheritance if he doesn't get married, because she's aware that this is quite common in the upper-class society. And surprisingly, Gage nods a yes. Eva asks why someone he just met? A complete stranger? And she tells him she's sure he's going to marry her and then divorce her immediately. He gets what he wants. But she still can't wrap her head around why he would choose her. A hot-tempered, betrayed, and dethroned nobody who doesn't have the beauty or even the status right now. Her inner devil tells her that it's because he probably wants a useful woman like her who offered to do all the hard work, and he might have also sensed her competitive spirit and is sure she has all the skills to work for that position. Eva is sure he chose her because he wants to be able to easily discard her once he doesn't need her anymore. And she looks like a woman who wouldn't even want to cling unto him. And although he hasn't done anything to her yet, she'd be naive to think he's doing this for anyone but himself. She asks him yet again why he's still hell-bent on marrying her, and he tells her why she still keeps asking if she thinks she isn't worthy to be the wife of a handsome man like him. But she tells him that he'd be so lucky to get a woman like her instead, and Gage seems impressed by her answer. He tells her that he assumes that she has agreed to his condition, but she pleads with him to think it over, and maybe they could map out the terms that will bind them before she can make her final decision, and he's impressed. He has to tell Mr. Park his decision before they discuss any further, so he wouldn't leave without knowing his new position. Eva tells him to accept it now, but he doesn't want to because she might end up changing her mind afterwards and possibly escape and leave him all alone with his decision, and Eva offers that they sign a contract, but not a marriage contract, a formal agreement of their bargain. He calls someone to make a formal contract for him and tells her that he needs to go out and keep Mr. Park busy while their contract is being prepared, and she could use that time to think it over because once she signs it, there's no turning back. He comes back with the document and asks if she has a change of mind, and she says no. He tells her he'd give her a month to decide on whether she still wants to marry him, and even if she doesn't agree to marry him, he'd still accept Mr. Park's offer and give her what she wants. However, within that space of 1 month, he has his own conditions that are written down in the document, and so far the contents of the contract look good, but she can't rejoice yet, because she hasn't reached the part that states his clause yet. The first condition states that Party A must present to Party B 1 kiss every night, and Eva is furious and almost explodes in anger. She needs to clarify on this condition, and he tells her that he means just that, and nothing more pretentious. He tells her it isn't so bad, and Eva tells him she hopes he isn't going to do more than that 1 kiss, and he nods a yes. The consequence, if Condition 1 isn't met, is that if Party A fails to present Party B with a kiss every night, punishment will be meted out for Party A. The punishment is that Party B will be the one to initiate the kiss for as long as he wants, or in whatever way, and she can't deny him of that. Eva is getting even more furious as she reads through the conditions, but she needs to calm herself down. Condition 1.1 states that she must not touch Gage while kissing him, and if she does, she must grant him a request that is fully up to him. Condition 2 states that she must be his bed warmer every night, and she's shocked, despite knowing this man would ask for something big in the end. She didn't expect something this big. She looks at him with a frown, and he tells her to calm down and read the footnote first and stop jumping into conclusions. The term bed warmer is used in literal terms, and she'd just have to go lie on his bed until it's warm and toasty. Then he'll go lie on it. And this has to be done every night. Eva is just dumbstruck, and she goes on to read the condition. If she fails to do this, she'd allow Gage do whatever he pleases with her, and she isn't allowed to reject his request. Condition 2.2 states that she won't touch Gage while he does Condition 2, and if she fails to do so, she must grant one request from Gage. And here comes Condition 3, stating that she must live with him within the stipulated duration of 1 month. All these unending conditions are beginning to get on Eva's nerves. Condition 4 states that she must be home before dinner every night, and on Condition 5, she must not be involved with any man during the duration of 1 month. If she fails to do all this, Gage will be free to punish her. The other important details states that Party B must not do anything without Party A's permission, and she can be free to revoke the contract if he inflicts any form of abuse on her, and he will be held liable. And she will also be held liable if she doesn't adhere to the consequences for 3 times. That's it. I mean, that's all right. Eva lets out after what seemed like hours and hours of torment and torture. And Gage asks if she wants more and assures her that as long as she fulfills all the conditions, she wouldn't have to worry about the consequences. He tells her she has 10 more minutes and can use the remaining time to think about her decision. And if she needs to back down, but Eva finds all his conditions really suspicious. But maybe he has some childhood trauma, that's why he needs a literal bed warmer. Or maybe he can only sleep in a bed warmed by someone else's body heat, and that's why he needs a bed warmer. She knows that despite how suspicious this man seems, she can't back out. Because this is her best and only choice right now, and she definitely can't back out of this because there are no other better bargains than this right now. Especially because the rumors have tarnished her name and she can't possibly get another job that would help her stand on her feet and exert her revenge on them. As long as Gage keeps to his word, there is nothing she won't do to keep his offer and get her revenge. He warns her that there's no turning back if she signs the documents, and she tells him that she has signed countless documents, and this one is quite simple enough for her to understand. He leans over to remind her that there's no more running once she signs this contract, and she tells him she won't run as long as he keeps to his words. She immediately signs the document. He tells her that now all this is done, they have to get rid of her glasses, and Eva can't help but wonder what her innocent glasses has to do with this. He, however, puts it back on and tells Pet to get ready because they have to go out. Eva tells Mr. Acheron that now she has to start living with him. Her has to stop calling her Pet and use her actual name, and he surprisingly agrees and decides to call her Eva Darling, and she's quite embarrassed and tells him she doesn't like it, but he really doesn't care, and tells her he likes it. "Wait a minute, Mr. Acheron," she calls out. But he ignores her and she decides to call him Gage, since that's what he prefers. She reminds him that she's still in her pajamas and she can't possibly go out looking like that. And he tells her that she looks so cute in it, so why not? But she doesn't buy the idea and wants to go home and get her own clothes. But he tells her he'd buy everything she needs, so he feels pity for her and agrees to let her go say goodbye to her lovely house. They go to her house and she packs a bag. He then asks if everything she's packing means so much to her, and she tells him they mean the world to her. And he tells her it's fine with him even if she has to move everything she owns over to his place. They're about leaving and find out that reporters are in the hallway and they rush to hide. She tells Gage that she can't afford to let them see her with him and get his image tarnished, just like how hers had already been ruined, so she tells him she's willing to wait until they're gone. He asks her that she doesn't want them to see her because she's planning to come out of the blue like a vengeful villain that's rising out of the ashes, and she agrees. He's quite impressed. She'd play with them just like they played with her life, up to the extent that they'd think she's even dead if need be. She'd make them lower their guard and be happy for just a short while, and then she'd attack. He's so impressed with her evil plans and tells her he's sure that they let the reporters come after her since they are the owners of the building, and she gets furious and tells him that building is in fact owned by her ex-fiance's grandparents, so it's quite understandable and expected. He cites all her clothes and asks if this is all she has, and she nods a yes. Looks like he wants her to wear a disguise, and she quickly understands the plan. She quickly pushes him out of the room, and he calls someone to meet him at her apartment. And immediately the door swings open, and Gage is speechless. Eva comes out looking like a hoodlum, and she tells Gage that she's so sure that no one will be able to recognize her. But Gage is still speechless. He finally gets free from his trance and tells her that he isn't so sure that the disguise will work because they definitely suspect her and attack. She might be able to fool normal folks, but not experienced reporters who have spent their whole lives doing all this. She insists that they won't be able to know it's her, but Gage doesn't seem to agree. She tells him to go out first because she can't risk him getting seen with her and possibly tarnishing his reputation, but Gage has refused to leave her all alone against that angry mob of reporters. Finally, the person he called on the phone shows up. It's Eloise. She's a good makeup artist that can disguise her perfectly. Eloise is through and states that all Eva has to do now is put on the dress she brought, but Eva seems to be taking so much time to put it on. So Gage barges in on her and gets stunned. She's so embarrassed at how much Gage is staring at her, but she looks too beautiful that he can't help but stare. She insists on taking the dress off, but he pulls her to the mirror to show her how much her identity has been concealed with this simple look, and this can only work because nobody has ever seen her like this before. Eva looks like such a seductive vixen that even her inner demon can't believe that's her right in front of the mirror. Gage tells her to hold his hands and walk confidently by treating the reporters like they're just irrelevant bystanders, or better still, as insignificant ants by the roadside. She tells him that she isn't so nervous, but she's just worried she might trip because she doesn't wear heels often, and she has never worn heels this high before. But Gage assures her that he won't let her trip, but her inner demon is worried that they might get busted, but she's so sure that they'll be able to pull this off. And she's quite surprised as to how confident she has become when it comes to her appearance. It must be this imposing man that she is holding onto. His aura is quite different and is one that can command any crowd to act in his favor, and she's sure it's definitely influencing her. They finally make it through the crowd, and everyone is in awe of how much confidence and class they exude and can't seem to remember if people like them ever lived in this apartment. Some of them seem to recognize Gage, but Eva, they say, looks like a model, and they're not so sure where she's from. The aura they exude makes the reporters believe that they're famous celebrities, but they still can't remember if they've ever seen them before. They ask if anyone managed to get a photo of them, but everyone lost track because of how beautiful and imposing they looked. They decide to focus on their target again. One reporter then remembers the lady that passed with the young lad is in fact a redhead, and Eva, their target, is a redhead. He immediately erases that thought because Eva could never look like that. Back in the elevator, Gage tells her that the easiest way to hide is not to hide at all, and that's why they were able to successfully escape the reporters. Eva is still shocked how well they were able to pull it off, and how no one seemed to recognize them at all, and Gage feels like a proud father. In the car, Gage reminds her that he'd be taking over as Aeson's CEO very soon, so she has to perfect her disguise. She'll go by the name Evelyn Lee, his smart, alluring, and sexy personal secretary and assistant. Eva slightly blushes and agrees. This is definitely the perfect position for her to do all his work for him like she promised, and also help her watch him closely and make sure he doesn't do anything scandalous to ruin his reputation, and possibly anything that can cause his own downfall. They pass by the XY building, and Eva looks furious. Gage tells her he hopes that she isn't planning to burn down the whole building, and she tells him that she wants to in fact burn down the whole building, burn them all to hell. And Gage is impressed as how she now sounds like a real villain. She blames it on them for making her into a real villain with all their wicked acts against her. So she must not disappoint her ex-family members and make sure she turns out as the ultimate villain they viewed her as. He looks pretty excited about how scary Eva sounds, and somewhat impressed also. Eva promises to deal with all of them in a way they'd so regret. Gage tells her he has to go somewhere and won't be back for 3 days, and she asks where he's going to. And he tells her that he's a healthy bachelor that has just 3 days before he has to be stuck to this new job he has thrown himself into. So he needs to fool around and enjoy his time now before it gets serious. Eva tells him he can't, and he tells her that she's acting like his wife already. But too bad that she didn't accept his proposal yet. If not, he'd have listened to her. and he's definitely the type to listen to his wife's orders. Eva is visibly embarrassed. She reminds him that the contract stipulated that she has to give him a kiss every night and also warm his bed. So if he travels, how is she expected to carry that out? But he tells her that this one is on him, so they wouldn't have to count it. He asks if she has any punishment stipulated for him, but that isn't even her problem. She just doesn't want him to go out and start fooling around and possibly ruin his reputation, which will now ruin her plans for revenge right before it even starts. She has to think of a way out of this. So she asks if he'd still have to go out and fool around if she agrees to be his girlfriend now, and he lets her know that he isn't the type to do such. But she doesn't seem to believe him. She tells him it's quite common amongst men these days, rich men at that, and he, Mr. Acheron, is quite rich and loaded, so it's hard to believe because she has seen so many men who act like cheating is normal, especially her ex-fiance, who she's sure has been cheating. But Gage pinches her face and assures her he'd be back without any scandals. She tells him that he'd be held accountable if he doesn't keep his promise, and he agrees, but he lets her know that he doesn't do girlfriend proposals, only marriage proposals. And Eva is speechless. If she successfully wants to ground him, she has to marry him and he'll be all hers. But he reminds her again that there's no rush and has a full month to think about it. He reminds her that it's almost night, and she has to keep her own end of the bargain by rewarding him with a kiss. She looks tensed, and Gage asks if she's nervous, and she tells him that it's quite normal for a first-timer to feel nervous, and he's shocked. He asks if this is her first time, and she says that she means it's her first time having to make the first move. He's relieved and tells her to calm down and take it easy, as he has given her the liberty to make a few trials on him so she can get used to the situation, but Eva lets him know that she doesn't need practice. She leans over and is about to touch his face when she remembers that one of the conditions is that she can't touch his face, so she grabs him by the shirt instead. He's impressed. She immediately goes in with a swoosh, and they lock lips, and she quickly takes her lips off his. That was quite intense and uneasy for her. He tells her that it felt more like a punch than an actual kiss. She should have just used her fists instead, and she's furious. She tells him that he didn't specify the kind of kiss he wanted, and yet again, she's right. He teases her, saying that it was a memorable kiss after all, and leans over to remind her that she needs to spend these 3 days perfecting her disguise, and he has everything already prepared for her. He leaves and she's lost in thoughts, but her attention gets drawn back by the butler and maids. She then decides to ask why the maid ran away, but he can't seem to understand what she means by ran away. It's been 3 days already, and Eva didn't seem to notice because she has been so busy and didn't even slack off for one day. He didn't even bother to text or call her all this time that he has been away. And if he doesn't come back today as promised, she'll call Mr. Park to know where he is and drag him back home. Speak of the devil, and he appears, but Eva is already fast asleep on the sofa with her laptop in hands. He's about to reach out to touch her face when he suddenly halts and decides to go have a bath first. In the shower, he's covered in blood. What dirty deal did this devil take while he was away? Eva slightly opens her eyes and finds a glorious face staring at her, and she's shocked that it's Gage. She suddenly remembers they're supposed to be at work, and she's worried that they're running late. He reminds her that he is the owner of the company, but Eva doesn't seem to buy it, and tells him to get up and get ready. He feels so lazy and tells her running late for a few hours wouldn't hurt, but she pulls him by his robe and tells him she's going to make sure that they're not late on their first day of work. Or else. Or else what, my little tiger? Gage snaps. He tells her that the way the Prince awakened Sleeping Beauty will definitely work on him, so she should give it a try. She leans in and gives him a kiss, warning him not to test her patience any longer, but Gage considers it as another punch in the lips and tells her he'd do it himself. Next time. In the car, she asks why he slept in her bed, and he can't say it's because she failed to warm his bed because last night was an exception, but jumping in his bed was an act she can hold him accountable for, so he agrees for them to discuss it now. She asks if jumping in his bed was because his was ice cold, and not for any malicious reasons, praying inwardly that he'll say yes. He asks what she means by that, and requests for specific examples of what she means. He tells her to relax because this isn't a business talk, and she agrees, and tells him that it's more serious than that. He finally surrenders and tells her that it's because his bed was icy cold, and she also didn't want to leave him last night. He tells her how he found her fast asleep on the sofa, and as an ever-charming prince, he decided to take her inside. But she clung so firmly to his clothes and didn't want to let go. And since it was so late in the night, he didn't want to risk waking her up. She refuses to believe and tells him he's definitely making it up. But he doesn't have that playful grin he usually has whenever he's teasing her, so he must be saying the truth. He tells her that she looked like a cute little kitten while she slept, and if he mistakenly woke her, that little kitten will turn into a fierce tiger, so he had to be careful. She gets very furious, but they're already at the office, so she has to hide all her anger with a smile, and Gage tells her that the smile suits her better. Also, her eye color seems to have changed. Looks like she's using contacts now. Everyone seems so stunned by how hot and handsome the CEO looks, and they're equally impressed by his secretary's beauty. Somehow, it feels like he's already taken, and all these other ladies seem to not have a chance when he's always with this beautiful goddess. His grandfather, George Acheron, welcomes them. He looks as hot as Gage does, even in his advanced age. He's thrilled that his lazy grandson decided to quit his laziness and take up his job, and Gage tells him he wouldn't be here if a certain tigress didn't punch his lips and drag him up here. George glances at Eva and says she must be the one, and he agrees. He introduces his grandfather to Eva, and he gets a closer look at her while shaking her hand, telling her she must be the one Gage is hiding at his house. Eva is embarrassed. The day is almost over, and Gage comes in the office with a bottle of wine and 2 glass cups offering her a drink. They raise a toast and congratulate each other on this new phase of life they have both chosen to embark on. He tells her that he will be handling her case, the one that accused her of fraud and gross misconduct, and she asks why. His answer is that he's bored and she just can't seem to understand this man again. But he's actually being serious and tells her it'd help him while away time whenever they're stuck in the office like this. Plus, he'd need her permission before sticking his nose into her personal matters, and he's quite sure that she has been looking for someone for the job and has to search no more because she has a young, handsome, capable man at her disposal. She reminds him that he's a CEO and not an investigator, but he tells her that she's the real boss, and all he has to do is sit back and relax. He tells her that it won't cost him anything doing this for her, and he's definitely good at what he does, so she should trust him. She doesn't understand why this devil is ready to do every and anything for her. Does he have another motive? She can only watch. Enjoying this recap so far? Comment part 2 below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao!